Let's bring in CBS News Olivia Gazis in Washington. Olivia, 15 countries at that United Nations conference signed a call for a two-state solution. Just how significant is that?
Mugo, it's a meaningful indication of this momentum that's been garnered to support a two-state solution. French President Macron really kicked it off by first announcing France's intention to recognize a Palestinian state. Now he's been followed by the British, and it leaves the U.S. as one of the only permanent members of the UN Security Council not to do so. And we've heard from both the French and British leaders say that part of the reason for this push is that discussions about arriving at a two-state solution had really subsided, especially amid the spike in tensions in the Middle East as the U.S. was carrying out its bombing campaign of Iranian nuclear sites earlier this month. But they also acknowledged that the situation in Gaza is just too critical. These excruciating images that we just saw of emaciated children and of frantic crowds desperate for food have created lots of domestic pressure in both France and the UK to intervene to improve the humanitarian situation. And so while these unilateral statements of recognition are mostly symbolic unless and until Israel is involved and the U.S. is involved, they've at a minimum broken through this months-long logjam and facilitated now a rush of supplies into Gaza.
Yeah, it's always very difficult seeing those images. It's just hard to fathom. We know the U.S., a close ally to Israel, chose to boycott this conference. But is there any sign that the U.S. will change its tune on this?
No indication of that so far, even though the president did acknowledge, again, those searing images of starving children in Gaza. Officially, the U.S. has come out basically to dismiss and disparage the UN summit itself. You can take a listen to what the State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce said yesterday.
This is a publicity stunt that comes in the middle of delicate diplomatic efforts to end the conflict in Gaza. Far from promoting peace, the conference will prolong the war, will embolden Hamas, and reward its obstruction and undermine real-world efforts to achieve real peace.
Now, it's worth noting that the U.S. had been trying to broker this long, elusive ceasefire, but right now there's no indications that discussions are ongoing. Last week, the U.S. withdrew its negotiators from Doha, saying that Hamas was not acting in good faith to reach a deal.
So what does it come down to at this point? Does it come down to who would govern? Is that the biggest obstacle when it comes to having Palestinian statehood?
That's a significant one, but there's lots of reasons why this has long been at an impasse, decades, right? There's widespread agreement that Hamas, as it exists now, cannot have a role in governing Gaza. But there's no other viable political entity right now, and there's no coalition being formed by Arab states to actually set up a governance structure. And there's also entrenched territorial disputes. Israel has been expanding its settlements in the West Bank. Both sides lay claim to Jerusalem as their capital. These are decades-long problems for which there have been no breakthrough solutions, and absent a big shift in political will, it's hard to see how they're resolved in any near term.
Wow. Okay. Olivia Gazis in Washington for us today. Thank you so much for your insight.